Hello guys, hello. I recorded another video of last week that I forgot to upload, but I'll upload it tonight along with some shooting range videos. But I wanted to come on here and talk because I've been thinking about some stuff, and I'm like, I'll scroll on TikTok or Instagram, and I'll see a video, and it's like just anything an insecure man says on the internet, and then other impressionable people take it to heart and just be like, oh, well, every woman must be that way. Because for example, let's say the video was, oh, my girlfriend's out with her friends, you know what that means. And then it's like a video of someone playing Scotty Doesn't Know or something, and if you know what that song's about, then yeah. But if you don't, it's basically about this girl cheating on her boyfriend with someone else. That's the entire thing. But it's crazy to me that, social media, and I don't want to sound like an old person obviously, but social media, I feel like, has really ruined the relationship aspect of our lives. Because if you can go on Instagram or TikTok, and I assure you that you will see a post saying like just anything about an insecure person that's projecting, just like, oh, I think they're cheating on me, just because they're not secure in their relationship or they're overly jealous. And if you do think that way, like, someone's cheating on you or something, like your partner, you really have to think that through, because that's a serious accusation. Because if you're just like, oh, I think you're cheating on me, they're not going to be like, oh, I'm not, and then you go about your day. They're going to take that to heart, like I would. It's a serious thing. People get cheated on every day, and it's not fun. My ex used to cheat on me all the time. Obviously, I didn't. As soon as I found out, I broke up with her, obviously. I'm not going to sit there and just get cucked, bro. But anyways, what was I saying? Yeah. If you really think that way, make sure make sure you actually have stuff to back it up. Like, if you're just going on a hunch, just like, oh, well, you didn't text me back at this hour, so that must mean you're getting dick down. That's not enough evidence. You gotta be like, well, you were with someone I didn't know. Even then, that's not even enough evidence to go off of. You need like strong. There's no really evidence to. I mean, unless it's like on a story, and they're like posting videos about or posting pictures with other, even then, posting pictures with other people isn't cheating. But if they're if they're taking pictures, how do I say this? I don't want to say being overly friendly. That doesn't make sense, because you're supposed to be nice to a stranger, depending on the context, obviously. But if they're visibly flirting, I guess, let's say a hand on an arm or something, that's when you can be like, oh, okay. But still, that's not grounds to say cheating. Cheating, you have to really, really be sure. It has to, again, like I said 100 times, you have to be really sure. Yeah. Anyways, but if you're insecure in a relationship and you're projecting that on your partner, you're making them feel bad, you're saying that you don't trust them just because you don't trust yourself. Or maybe you've done something in the past that correlates with what you're accusing them of. So let's say I think you're cheating and they're not, or there's no evidence to prove that they are, then that's obviously projection. Either you're doing it or you plan on doing it. But like I was saying, you have to be sure about it. Yeah, projection. I already covered that. Yeah, sorry, I'm trying to think here. But yeah, let's get into another example. You know, let's say your partner's out with a friend or something that you don't really know that good, and then they don't text you for maybe 5 hours, I guess. I don't know. Just a decent amount of time. Because, you know, for me and my relationship, we trust each other enough, and, you know, we talk to each other enough we've developed a bond that, you know, we don't have to constantly be on each other's, you know, to, you know, communicate good. We can talk maybe like a combined total of 2 hours a day, and, you know, we're good. I hope. Anyways, but, you know, you gotta put that trust in your partner. Anyways, back to the example. Let's say they didn't talk to you for 5 hours. Well, obviously it should be fine, you know, just as long as they're like, as long as they give like a follow-up text, just like, hey, sorry, I was out, with like the person's name, and they don't have to tell you what they did, obviously. You're not some FBI investigator, unless you are, then I don't know. But, you know, if you're, whatever, you get it. But yeah, just as long as they're like, hey, I was out doing this with this, and you're like, oh, okay. Like, you're supposed to be, you know, accepting of it. In a relationship, you're supposed to support each other. Thank you. But yeah, like I was saying, you're supposed to support each other. A relationship's supposed to be a team, not a rivalry. You know, you're supposed to work together. If you know, something's not adding up to you, talk to them about it. Don't just be like, I think you're cheating. Just be like, hey, you know, what were you doing then? And, well, no, that makes you sound like an interrogator. But, you know, just talk it through is what I mean. Like, don't accuse them of stuff. Because as much as I, you know, talk about my exes, I wasn't perfect too. You know, I was super jealous at some points. You know, I was insecure. And then, you know, I just kind of stopped, and I was thinking, I'm just like, what good does this really do me to just act this way? Like, why am I doing this? Like, what good does it do for my relationship? So I just stopped. I mean, obviously it was hard because, you know, it's breaking a habit. Like, I'm not gonna say quit smoking, that's a little harsh. Let's say that you turn right on this one street every day, and you turn left, or you have to start turning left. You know, it's like altering a pattern, I guess. But, you know, I was just thinking, I'm just like, I gotta change this because this isn't good for my relationship, and it was showing. Obviously my ex was worse about it. I couldn't talk to anyone without literally giving my ex everyone's like phone number and everything, and she would, yeah, it was bad. Obviously she trusted my best friend enough, which is great, obviously, because that's like the main person I hang out with. But everyone else, I just had to, you know, thoroughly explain myself like I was some kind of serial killer trying to prove my innocence. But thankfully, my new girlfriend actually gives me, you know, a breather. She's not constantly on my dick about everything. She actually understands the concept of having friends in a busy life. And understanding the concept of me time. That's a huge thing for me. I love having time to myself. And yeah, that's just a big thing for me. Like, and it's a big thing for her too, which is great because we both know how important it is. Anyways, back to the thing at hand. But yeah, put trust in your partner. Don't listen to what social media says. Social media, it's already ruined, you know, body image. It gives us a ton of issues. Body image. It tells us what we should buy, you know, what we should be doing. what to think is funny even. And I'm obviously, you know, a victim of what to think is funny. I think stupid stuff is funny because I've been brain rotted over the years. But again, there's nothing wrong with, well, there's nothing objectively wrong with that. It's just, yeah, I guess, I don't know. Man, what was I gonna say? Yeah, but social media will tell you how to think, is really what I'm saying. I'm not saying like, oh, don't be like the sheeple, don't be like one of those left wing, right wing, whatever. Just, think for yourself is what I'm trying to say. Like, if you make a decision, think it through before you make that decision. Like, don't sit at a red light and think, you know what, I'm gonna go when it's red. Think through your options. Just like, oh, if I go through, well, it's red, I have a risk of getting in a crash, which might give me injuries, which insurance might not cover, which would give me debt, which could lead to which could lead to, making me homeless or not being able to pay a bill or something. You gotta think it. Don't overthink it, obviously. Let me choose a better example. Say you're talking with your partner and you're in an argument and you're about to say something that you don't mean. Stop yourself before you say it and think. Just like let's say you're thinking, I think you're cheating on me, and you're about to say it, and then you stop yourself and you're like, that's probably not a good thing to say, that could ruin my relationship. So then you you sit there and think, and you're like, hey, I'm having some trust issues. Is there a way we could talk this through and stuff? And then hopefully they'll be like, yeah, sure, of course. But if they don't respond positively to that, I mean, you're in an argument. Obviously, it's not going to be pretty, but they should at least be like, okay, fine, I'll hear you out. Like, just be there for each other. But going back to the original topic, this is hopefully all connected. I'm not going to review this footage because I yap like crazy, and it's just me stuttering over and over again. So yeah, social media will just ruin your views of a relationship, is really the main point I'm trying to make here. Because you see all these videos about people getting cheated on, and you're like, oh man, I think that might happen to me one day, or oh man, that's probably happening to me right now. And then you start treating people differently because of it and all that. I know, because it's happened to me. Social media ruined my outlook in past relationships. In my last one, it was obviously, social media might have been right, because I did get cheated on, but it led social media telling me that, or putting on my algorithm just like, hey, you might, or like, you signs to look for that you're being cheated on, or something like that. That's a common one. And I'm like, oh man, that's what's happening to me. So yeah, I just waited maybe a month or two, and I'm like, hey, I think we should break up. I'm not really feeling it anymore. And she's like, oh, okay, I cheated on you, by the way. I'm like, oh my god, I knew it. But anyways, that's not really helping. The point is, don't let social media influence your relationship decisions. Don't let social media influence anything, really. Unless it's like buying a Corvette, like one of those old ones, not the new ones. Totally buy an old Corvette. And this brings me to another topic. I might start this one and just also do it in another video, but I wanted to talk about the 3 main sections in a relationship. So we'll start with emotional. So in order for a relationship to function, you need to support each other, spend time with each other, and check up on each other, make sure everyone's doing all right. If you do those 3 things, and just do those 3 things, and I'm pretty sure you'll be golden. Because that's what I do in my relationship. I check up on her, I make sure she's good. Also, remember the little things. That's a big thing. People love when you remember the little things, and I bet you would too if you are in a relationship. I'm obviously, I don't know that for sure. But just say like, hey, I remember you like this candy, so I bought it for you. And that's like, oh man, that's like awesome, But yeah, the emotional aspect. Again, like I said, the small things, dates, words of affection, definitely. Words of affection is a big one. Some people might, feel unappreciated if you don't say it enough, or you say it too little. In their eyes, you could be saying it too little, or too much even. Like if you're constantly like, I love you, which, I tend to say it more often than I should, but I don't say it every minute. It's more like twice every day, maybe 3 times every day, which I don't think is excessive, in my opinion, obviously. I could be totally wrong. I don't think it's excessive, but, everyone's entitled to their own opinion. My girlfriend might think it's excessive, and that's okay. But, anyways, words of affection, the, little things, dates, some other things. Sorry, I'm thinking. I guess that does it for emotional, but I guess emotional and mental are kind of connected. But just like check up on each other, be like, hey, are you doing okay? And if they're not, talk with them, figure it out. And don't try and fix it. That's a big thing. Do not try and fix it. If it's something that they're feeling, like I'm feeling sad because I'm depressed or something. Let's say that your partner's depressed. Don't try and fix them. Just listen to them. That's a huge thing. Most people will find an issue and be like, oh, well, let's fix it. You'll make them feel like they're like broken, like they're not healthy. Being depressed is a completely normal thing. Well, I don't want to normalize it, but people do get depressed, and it is a normal thing to happen to someone. Albeit it's not a good thing, but it's normal. You don't try and fix it. It'll just make everything worse. It'll make them feel worse. It'll make you feel worse. It'll make the entire relationship just go down in shambles. Even if it's a friendship, don't try and fix them. Just listen to them. If it is something you can fix, like let's say you did something and they didn't like it, you fix that. They're like, hey, I didn't like how you made that insensitive joke. You're like, oh, I'm sorry. I won't say it again. And then there you go. That's it. That's a fixed issue right there. And then that brings you closer together. Do you know why? Because you're communicating. Communicating leads to a stronger bond, which leads to a healthier relationship, which leads to a healthier everything. You got a better outlook on life. You got a better, everything. You're just feeling better altogether. Your partner is too. Hopefully, depending on what you say. I'll do a little story here. It's not gonna take long. Well, this video is gonna be long, but that's your fault for clicking on this video. Just sitting through this. If anyone does watch. Anyways, so my dad and my stepmom argue a lot. So one night, me and my dad come back from the gym. I'm in the kitchen. I think I was like making a steak or something. So I'm sitting there cooking a steak, listening to music and whatever. I have like a decent volume so I can still hear everything going on around me, including conversations. So I'm cooking and I hear, you never do anything. And then my dad, he's a good guy. He doesn't, but the thing he tends to do is not speak his mind when he should, especially in a relationship. Because he sits there and he just takes it from her. Pause. So she'll be sitting there absolutely just giving it to him. Pause. And then he'll be like, I'm sorry, it won't happen again. And she's like, yeah, it better not. And I'm like, okay, you're lucky that you're like 40. Actually, I could just beat her. You're lucky my dad loves you, bro. Because if he didn't, I would beat the fuck out of her, bro. And I would win. Because all my siblings would join in. And even her kids would join in, bro. Her daughters hate her. Anyways, that's not the point. But, she tends to blame my dad for everything instead of communicating to him that there's a problem. She's like, you always do this, you never fix anything. She's blaming him and not really doing much to, you know, she needs to look inward is what I'm saying. She's projecting her feelings onto him because she feels guilty that she's disrupting the relationship, which causes her to promote or project her emotions onto him, which makes him feel like he's destroying the relationship, which makes him feel really bad and changing stuff about himself that doesn't need change. But yeah, I guess that's it for like emotional and mental. You know, just check up on each other. Again, like I've said like 800 times, check up on each other. Communicate, that's a big one. Don't blame each other. Yeah, don't blame each other. Just talk it through. Remember everything. Make each other. Excuse me. Wow, I'm sorry. I have bad acid reflux. That's a thing about me. So sometimes I have to pause. So I don't know. Anyways, yeah, just you know, just be there, I guess. Now physical. Now, this is a mixed topic. You can see this how you want it to, or how you want to. I mean, but you know, hugs, kisses, stuff like that, like hand holding, that should be a normal thing in a relationship. If you don't get that in a relationship, then maybe, you know, that's not, you know, the one for you. Especially hugs. See, kisses, it's good. It's good, you know. Like, yeah, it's good. That's like the only thing I can say. Depending on the context, it can be good, it can be heartwarming, it can be connecting, I guess. Let's say after an argument you kiss, and then that's like, you know, like, my bad. That's like, you know, I don't want to say it that corny. I was gonna say like your soul's connecting, but that's corny. But it also is kind of what it is, you know. Like if you're in love, you have a bond with that person, which if you believe in it is like a soul thing, you know. But most people, or some people, don't, you know, believe in that stuff, which is okay. But hugs, you know, it can, depending on how you do it, it could be, oh my god, it's so windy, storm's coming. We actually really need this rain. It's hot. Anyways, I'm sorry. Well, you know, hugs are always gonna be, you know, loving, caring. You know, a hug feels safe, and, you know, connecting again. Like, cause you're depending on how you hug, well, no one really hugs like sideways. I was gonna say your hearts are like literally touching, but they're not. I mean, you're just feeling the warmth of another person on you. Like, that's a person that willingly chose to spend their time with you, and you're just there with them, you know, like you're holding them, and that's a big thing, you know. That's awesome. But the mixed part about this is the more physical, the more intimate stuff, because you can see, you know, like, I don't want to sound like a fucking teacher, bro. You know, you can see that inappropriate stuff is what I'm gonna say. You can see that inappropriate stuff as, depending on how you look at it, you could be like, oh, they're just using me for my body, or something like that. But if you're in a relationship, the correct thing you should be thinking, which I'm not saying, you know, your way of thinking isn't right, because it could be true. But remember, have your evidence. You know, the way I would think is that we're bonding, you know, like it's a connection between two people. It's intimate. It's supposed to be loving. You know, you're not supposed to use someone for their body. That's a dick move. You know, you're supposed to, if you're banging someone, don't let it be like a one night stand, or like, bow, bow, bow. Yeah, I had fun, and then just dip. Don't do that. You know, if you're gonna do that with someone, make sure you're sure about the person. Be safe, obviously. Learn from my mistakes. Don't do don't take those times for granted, is what I mean. Because if you just constantly do it, it doesn't feel important. I'm gonna turn around. There's an animal in the woods. Anyways, yeah, okay, I think I'm safe. Anyways, but you know, the more if you just constantly do it, it doesn't feel good. You know, I mean, it could feel good physically, but mentally, you're just like, you know, okay, now what? Because in my last relationship, all she wanted to do was bang, and then never anything else. So, you know, we would go about our business, and then afterwards, I'd just sit on my phone while she sleeps, and that's not a good thing. You know, with my current girlfriend, if we were to do something of the sort, you know, I would take care of her afterwards, obviously, which is what you're supposed to do. Aftercare is a huge thing. Don't just not do it. Ooh, let me start walking back to my car. No, I got time. Don't not care for the person. That's like basically that's the main topic of this video. Don't not care for someone. Make sure that they feel safe doing it with you. Like, if you're gonna do it with someone, make sure it's safe. Make sure it's not often. Make it feel important, you know? Like, if you're one of those like hypersexual couples, I get that. You know, you could, you know, you could have higher hormones than other people, which, you know, you can't control. And if you tend to do it more often, that's not a bad thing. You know, that's just how your body works. For example, I have a higher sex drive because, first of all, I'm a teenager, obviously. And second, it's genetics. You know, high sex drives are genetic. But my girlfriend, she doesn't. Well, I don't want to say she doesn't. That's her business. I'm not going to get into her business. She can, if she wants to, she can tell that story. Or she can tell, you know, her side of everything. And I thought I lost my keys for a second. She can tell, you know, she can tell you guys what her body does. I'm not getting into all that. But the point is, if you do it often, it's not a bad thing. Unless you make it a bad thing. Excuse me. Oh my god, a bug just flew in my eye. I'm sorry. But yeah, if you're just like a casual couple, don't force the physical stuff. Definitely don't force the physical stuff. Let's say you want to do something, but your girlfriend doesn't. Don't be like, but it's been so long. It's been 3 months. Don't do that. Okay? You're either a man, a woman, or an in-between. The point is you're supposed to be grown, but you know, you're mature is what I mean. You're mature, hopefully, and you should know better than to force someone. You know, it's not fun for anybody if you just if you force it. It's not fun. Or at least I hope you don't think it's fun, because then, you know, you're just like a rapist. But you know, there's been a couple of times where I've asked my girlfriend, I'm like, hey, do you want to maybe, like, I don't know, do something? And she'd be like, no, not really. And I'd be like, okay. And then we just go about like watching a movie or something. That's how easy it is to push aside your feelings. I'm not saying your feelings aren't important. Obviously they are. Everyone's feelings are important. But you know, if your feelings contradict, if your physical feelings, I should say, contradict your partner's, like, intimacy wise, I guess, then you should, you know, set it aside. Like, let's say you want to bang, or they don't, just push it aside. You know, you can wait. It's not like not having sex is gonna kill you. Same with kisses and stuff. You know, if someone doesn't want to kiss you, don't make a big deal out of it. Like, they could be uncomfortable with public displays of affection, or they could just not feel like it, and that's okay. You know, it could be the same for hugs and hand holding and all that. Don't feel like they don't. That woodpecker scared me. Don't feel like they don't love you. You know, just feel good that they feel comfortable enough to tell you that they don't feel comfortable with it, you know? Like, because telling someone you don't feel comfortable with something is the highest form of intimacy of all. you know, or if that makes sense. You know, developing that level of trust that you trust to tell someone that stuff is big. Because I know I have really bad trust issues. I'm still, you know, learning how to tell my girlfriend what I want and don't want, because my ex actually did a huge number on me, you know, because anytime I would refuse anything, she would get mad. So I just kind of, I'm used to just doing what other people want. But now that my girlfriend actually understands, or is actually a mature person, I should say, it's definitely a step up. So, yeah. Yeah. Well, I guess I'll just, I don't know. Sorry. The point is, don't force anything. You know, let the feelings be genuine. Let's say your partner's on like a certain medication or something that is making it harder for them to feel physical attraction or something. Well, let me not say that. Making it harder for them to feel those feelings, I guess. I don't want to say like the word, because it just sounds corny. You know, if they don't feel the same feelings that you do when you want to be intimate with someone, that's not their fault. They can't control that. Especially if they're on a medication where they, let's say antidepressants, if they take those are proven to decrease sex drive, which I don't really understand. I'm not saying it's not true, I just don't understand it that good. But it is a fact. So, yeah. If your partner's on that and they don't really feel like doing anything, don't force them. You know, just be patient, you know. Being patient is a big thing in a relationship. You gotta learn to be patient. But if they don't feel that way, and if that's like all you're focused on, you shouldn't be in a relationship, obviously. That goes without saying, though. But if they don't feel that way, don't push it. You know, be patient. I'm sorry, I keep like repeating this same exact thing, but you know, do that. The time will come. You know, the time will present itself. You know, maybe one day, let's say your partner's just gonna be like, hey, I'm ready. Do you want to do this? And if you say no, then that's okay too. But if you say yes, then, you know, I guess you got what you want. But, you know, yeah. Just, wow. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm going to say this again. The point is, be patient, you know? Yeah. Yeah. I'll tell you a little story from my first relationship, the worst one, obviously. You're always, the thing I learned was relationships are never going to be pretty. Like, if you do it right, you should fight. Now, I'm not saying that it's a good thing to fight constantly, but you should have disagreements. You should be mad at each other. That's how, you know, a relationship works. You're gonna have disagreements. It's not always gonna be perfect. I learned that the hard way in my first relationship, because I was like, okay, you know what? Relationships are gonna be magical. And then it was like I was fighting in Vietnam, because, well, first of all, my first ex was schizophrenic, depressed, all that. I didn't know how to deal with that yet. Considering my mom is schizophrenic and depressed, so I had no idea how I didn't know how to deal with that. I guess on an intimate level. But yeah, she would always push that on me, and I would just be like, oh, it's okay, don't worry about it. But yeah, me constantly agreeing with what she wanted, and, you know, constantly pushing aside my own feelings is what led to me now not being able to say what I wanted. Yeah. But I'm also not trying to like badmouth schizophrenic or depressed or like people like that. You know, if you feel that way, hopefully you have. Oh, it's stank right there. hopefully you have medication for it, and if you don't, I can't, you can't control that. Unless you're like one of those anti-vaxxer people that are like, I don't believe in medicine. God will take care of me. And if you believe that, that's you. But me personally, I take the meds. Because believe it or not, I was a devout Christian once in my life. I went to church every Sunday. I did everything, a Christian does. I went to communion. I got baptized actually too. But now you see me, and yeah. Anyways, that doesn't have anything to do with the video. I'm just saying that I guess it connected to the belief thing. Am I lost? Did I make a wrong turn? No, I keep going straight. Anyways, just to recap the entire video, be there, don't push anything, be patient. Remember the small things, and disagree. Yeah, disagree is a good one. Don't constantly do it, but if you have a disagreement, if it's over something petty, don't disagree. Like, don't be like, oh, well, your thought is wrong and I want to talk about it. Don't be like that. If it's like, I like chocolate better than vanilla, you're like, well, your thought is wrong. Don't do that. If it's like, I disagree with what you said because it hurt me or something, then you can, disagree on it. But anyways, those are the key points. And I gotta head home before it rains because the brakes on my family's 67 Chevy Impala are absolute buns. I'm basically breaking on prayers now. Anyways, goodbye.